Michael Venom Page is bringing in some serious point style karate to the UFC. That stuff where you're on the outside, you're bouncing, and all of a sudden you're blitzing in. It's crazy impressive that he can do this, that he was successful in his first fight. And I want to talk about this more right now. Does he have a chance of becoming UFC champion at the welterweight division? And I want everybody to remember that there are less than 10 days to get registered for my defense course. Doors close March 24th at midnight. You cannot register after because I want everybody following along at the same page with the chapters. Link in the description. Head over to Varga Combat and get registered for this fantastic course right now. I think we can all agree that Michael Page's debut into the UFC was impressive. He faced a high-level competitor in Kevin Holland. They didn't throw him some, ranked 25th slouch or something like that within the UFC. He got somebody who's proved himself very dangerous. And one of the things that happens very often, at least when I've watched people come from other promotions and moved to the UFC, a lot of times people struggle. Even people that we go, wow, these guys are the best in the world. They make that transition and they struggle. And Michael Page looked in top form, looked like he was ready for this opportunity. And it really brings into question, will he be a struggle for everybody at that 170-pound division? Because that karate style, that bounce, that quick movement, that blitz, it's hard to deal with. And yes, it can be argued that Wonder Boy brings a lot of that to MMA, but his style, I'd say, is even a little less karate, a little toned down, a little bit more catered to the MMA world, whereas Page, when you watch him, you're like, this looks straight up point fighting karate. So I want to break down some of the things that we saw him do against Kevin Holland and things that might prove beneficial or detrimental in his upcoming fights. First off, his movement. He's just all over the place. He's so bouncy. He's so explosive backwards and forwards. And I think this is going to prove very frustrating, very difficult for many people because they either have to be at this long range where he can't bounce on you, or you have to close the distance so fast that he can't back up. I think this bounciness, this movement is going to be very odd and very frustrating and very difficult to prepare for. The next thing which people are going to struggle with in the UFC is getting used to a side stance. We don't see this very often. And generally when we do, it doesn't have that same movement, which I just showed you, which I just shared with you. Yes, guys like, as we already said, Wonder Boy will take that side stance, but he's not quite as explosive and bouncy as Page. So once we get to here, yes, this leg is compromised, but to kick that leg with somebody who's so explosive forwards, it is a bit of a risk. And again, I think it's going to be a little bit of a difficulty for people while training for him. I'm not saying there aren't fighters who are going to be able to beat him. I think there are some fighters that will beat him, but I think it's going to be difficult. Now, what is one of Venom Page's most dangerous attributes? Something that you might not really understand if you're not familiar with point fighting is the ability to blitz. I've already used that term once, blitz your opponent. That means from out of range, you don't enter slowly, you literally throw your head forward and start attacking with your feet behind you. The feet can catch up, but that is a blitz motion, which is going to be very difficult for people because we're not used to that. We're used to people thinking, okay, we attack, and then we have follow-up shots. But his is just more, I blitz in with a couple and then I'm gone. And I think that's going to be something hard to deal with. I almost think that maybe as he blitzes on you, somebody might need to commit their head to the outside and shoot in and use that as their opportunity to score takedowns. But it's going to be hard. It won't be easy prep. Now, I'm sure a massive part of Kevin Holland's game plan was, okay, let's get this guy to the ground, or at least let's close the distance where those blitzes aren't as dangerous anymore, and let's put some leather on them. But how do you do that to somebody who is just always backing up? They're always moving around. They're just on their toes. They're so explosive. This is what Michael Page brings. And it's gotta be so frustrating to be in a fight with somebody when they're not engaging the way that you are used to. And we saw Kevin Holland visually frustrated with what was happening in the third round and wanting to be able to engage more, but there's no rule that you can't back up that much as long as you're still landing in between. And that's what Michael Page does so well. He makes it so difficult for you to get him, but then he blitzes on you. And that backwards movement is going to be frustrating and it's going to be difficult to overcome. It's going to take a lot of willpower up there to stick to the game plan and not get thrown off. Because the thing is, if you do get too aggressive against Michael Page, when he's backing up, you just go, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm just going to run this guy down. He is still good at being backwards and throwing his counter shot. He's dangerous in those moments. So just having that, oh, I'm going to throw caution to the wind and charge forward, that could easily lead to you getting clipped and getting rocked and not wanting to do it again, or getting clipped, getting knocked down, and then having him just finish you with some simple ground and pound. It's not as easy as you might think with this style of fighting, even in karate combat where I compete now. That side stance, that bounciness, that ability to back up, but throw, a lot of guys are good at it. And if you can break them outside that element, they're gonna crumble. But if you cannot, and you live in their world, it's very hard to defeat them. Now, the next thing that's really odd about Michael Page and most karate guys is the speed at which they throw techniques. Not necessarily how fast they can get the shot off, but the speed they go from one to the other. So when we see Michael Page go round kick, punch, punch, it's just a little faster, a little bit more sloppy, a little bit more unorthodox than what the average high-level striker is going to do. And that might make it difficult because normally you go, okay, I'm going to block a technique and then boom, boom. That's kind of the pace. Boom, boom, boom. But now it's more like, ugh, and you really got to rush through your defense. And it's going to be very hard, like I said before, to train for this because not many high-level dudes throw in this way. Now, the next thing which really impressed me about Michael, and if he can learn to capitalize on his groundwork, this is going to become very dangerous, but his takedown ability from standing, his ability to go, okay, I'm going to step through with a cross, boom, put my foot to the outside of theirs and then tip them over. Or use one of my favorite sweeps, dump them down to the floor. Just, put the bottom of your foot, the arch of your foot against their shin, their lower shin, and then boom, toss them. All that is frustrating. It's extra fuel to that frustration, which is already burning. And when you're getting tossed around by somebody, you're just gonna be going, ugh. And then all of a sudden, what does he do? He doesn't attack you when you're on the ground. He stands there and mocks you. And that's gotta be extra difficult to maintain composure when you have somebody above you that just tossed you down and he's doing like some kind of drunk movement, something like that. He is very good at getting inside people's heads. And you have to assume with a fighter like this that you're gonna have some struggles. There's gonna be some moments where things don't go your way. And if you're not able to maintain composure, stay calm, stick to the game plan, I don't see it going well for you. So overall, I've already said I was super impressed with Michael Page's debut in the UFC. How do I see his next fight going? Well, the first thing that everybody did after the fact was go, wow, this guy moves kind of like Wonder Boy. The two of them should fight. The first thing Page said, and I might have to agree with him, is it might not be that exciting a fight. I think we're going to see both of them just kind of bounce around. They won't be engaging that much. There won't be much on the floor. You know that. But when you have two karate guys, it's going to be a lot of this, oh, are you going to go or am I going to go? And they're both going to be so good at movement. I don't see that playing out as an exciting fight. And I'm not sure it's one that I even want to see. I think getting him in against top 10 guys, making his way towards that title shot would be ideal, but maybe against people who might be able to challenge him in different ways. And if they can't challenge him and take him down, then you know he's going to just put on an entertaining fight with those spinning elbows, with his theatrics. Everything is going to make it exciting. So I do believe that there's going to come a point where somebody's going to take him down. They're going to be able to submit him. They're going to get the ground and pound. Kevin Holland had his back a number of times and was unable to do anything finishing wise, maintain the position, but I'm not sure if he's the ideal guy to try and go about doing something like that. There will be other people at that welterweight division which are going to thrive if they can get the back of Michael Page. So it'll be very interesting to see. I'm very excited for his next fight. I was in Bellator with this guy for years, always kept up with everything he was doing there because he's just so fun to watch. His ability to hit somebody and then instead of chase them down while they're hurt, to just stand there and do something, which is just pretty unheard of. Like I hit them, they're stunned, and he just stands there like a statue, like he knew it was going to happen. It's just cool stuff. Something which other fighters don't bring, and it makes him unique. So like I said, I will be watching his next fight. What did you guys think? Are you going to be watching Michael Page's next fight with lots of interest? Do you think he's going to have a chance of winning UFC gold? Or is it going to be difficult for him once he starts getting to those guys who have the good wrestling or the good jiu-jitsu? Let's call it there, guys. Thanks for joining today. As always, train hard. I'll see you back here soon for another episode.